Close your eyes and imagine tuning an old analog radio. Most people slide the dial, land on one clear station, and listen. An INFJ, they're picking up 13 stations at once. Every lyric, every static pop, every whispered broadcast hidden between the numbers. To the outside world, that multi-signal mind can look unusual, fussy, even broken. But what if that overlap isn't a flaw at all? What if it's a feature? Tonight, we're cracking open the INFJ's inner control room, tracing 13 power-packed reasons their brains run on neurodivergent wiring that sparks hyper-empathy, pattern-hunting visions, and a sixth sense for human hope. Stick around, because once you hear how these hidden circuits fire, you'll never label an INFJ too sensitive again. You'll wonder how the rest of us survive on just one station, enjoying the static-free peek behind the INFJ curtain. Smash that like so this story reaches more curious minds. Tap subscribe to keep our psychological deep dives coming, and hit share if you know someone who's always reading between the lines. Ready? Let's decode those 13 signals together. Picture a bustling conference hall where name tags outnumber genuine smiles. In that crowd, one person notices the fluorescent lights flicker, clocks a dozen micro-expressions at once, and senses the room's mood shift before the keynote even begins. Statistically, that person is likely an INFJ, barely 1 to 2% of humanity. Rarity alone doesn't earn the neurodivergent badge. What does is a neural symphony tuned to social radio waves most people can't hear. Ready to crack open the circuitry behind that sensitivity? Let's start by tracing why traditional personality charts can't keep up. Picture a bustling conference hall where name tags outnumber genuine smiles. In that crowd, one person notices the fluorescent lights flicker, clocks a dozen micro-expressions at once, and senses the room's mood shift before the keynote even begins. Statistically, that person is likely an INFJ, barely 1 to 2% of humanity. Rarity alone doesn't earn the neurodivergent badge. What does is a neural symphony tuned to social radio waves most people can't hear. Ready to crack open the circuitry behind that sensitivity? Let's start by tracing why traditional personality charts can't keep up. Researchers at UCLA found INFJ brains fire up analytical and empathy networks simultaneously, a rare crosstalk flooding the cortex with competing data streams. Picture juggling chess and charades at once. Strategy and feeling merge, producing insights that feel psychic. Yet that blend can short-circuit in shallow settings, leaving the INFJ wiped while everyone else warms up. Is that struggle proof of damage, or evidence of a new operating system humanity lacks a manual for? Throughout this series, we'll call that signal the misfit frequency, a hum between logic and heart only a few can tune. Keep listening, because next we dive into the hyper-empathy circuit when antennas never switch off. Step into a subway car at rush hour. The air buzzes with stress, fatigue, and tiny sparks of joy from someone's playlist. Most riders shrug it off. The INFJ's nervous system, wired like a 360-degree parabolic microphone, absorbs every hum. Mirror neuron clusters in the inferior frontal gyrus fire so intensely that neuroscientist Dr. Tanya Singer calls them emotional Wi-Fi, syncing the INFJ's heart rate to strangers within 60 seconds. Yes. They don't just observe the tired mother's frown, they feel the weight of her diaper bag in their own shoulders. Useful? Absolutely. That full-color download lets INFJs diffuse conflicts before words form, craft art that feels eerily personal, and counsel friends with laser-guided compassion. But run the feed too long and circuits overheat. Cortisol surges, pupils dilate, and the empath turns ghost, slipping from parties without goodbye to sit in a quiet bathroom stall and breathe. Critics label the exit antisocial. In reality, it's emergency triage. Hit pause before empathy becomes overwhelm. So how do they survive carnivals of sensation the rest of us barely notice? First, by guarding the gates, a skill we'll explore next. For now, imagine hearing every emotion at concert volume and ask, would you keep the headphones on? Shift from emotion to cognition. If empathy is the INFJ's floodlight, their pattern-seeking intuition is the laser pointer that cuts through chaos. Hand an INFJ a shoebox of random puzzle pieces, news headlines, offhand jokes, weather reports, and within minutes they're mapping a storyline that ends 3 Thursdays from now. Neuroscientist Dr. Robert Sternberg notes that dominant introverted intuition activates the brain's default mode network more than average, cross-linking distant memories with live data in milliseconds. The result? A mental detective board lit by red yarn that only they can see. This isn't fortune-telling, it's statistical jazz. Micro-expressions hint at motives, word choice hints at values, Calendar patterns hint at goals. The INFJ stacks those clues like transparent slides until a picture snaps into focus. And when it does, they blurt predictions that feel uncanny. Friends swear, "I was just thinking that." Critics cry coincidence. Yet study after study on holistic processing shows that subconsciously mined data can outpace conscious analysis. The gift carries a price. Constant pattern hunting can morph into obsessive prophecy, draining joy from the present. So the INFJ keeps notebooks, sketches timelines, and on good days, remembers to watch the sky itself, not just the map of incoming storms. Walk into a big box store with an INFJ and watch the transformation. Fluorescent lights stab like neon needles, radio ads blare in competing keys, plastic packaging crackles underfoot. While most shoppers filter noise into background hiss, the INFJ's thalamus, the brain's sensory switchboard, leaves half the channels stuck on max. Research on sensory processing sensitivity shows INFJs score near the peak, meaning stimuli others rank as moderate can feel like sirens and searchlights. That hypersense isn't all agony. It's also why they notice the faint citrus note in a friend's new perfume, or spot a single typo on a billboard at 80 paces. Artists, chefs, and sound engineers covet this turbocharged input. Still, unchecked influx breeds overwhelm. Watch for the tell. Shoulders tense, eyes dart, breathing shallows. That's the gatekeeper slamming doors, earbuds in, hoodie up, exit signs scanned. Smart INFJs build rituals. Blue light glasses, soft fabrics, playlists engineered like white noise fences at the first sensory spike. They curate environments the way museum conservators guard priceless art, because their nervous system is one. But sensitivity to surface details feeds an even deeper hunger, meaning. And when trivial chatter drowns significance, another overload loop triggers. Ready to dive beneath the noise? Great weather, huh? The phrase ricochets across the lunch table like a ping-pong ball, and the INFJ smiles politely, while internally begging for something substantial. Their mind runs a deep-sea submersible built to probe trench-level questions. Why do we suffer? How does society heal? Small talk is surface foam. They crave the Mariana. Neuroscientist Dr. Scott Barry Kaufman links this hunger to amplified activity in the brain's meaning-making circuit, the medial prefrontal cortex, which lights up whenever we align experience with personal values. For INFJs, that light seldom dims. Enter the overload. When days fill with spreadsheets, buzzwords, and emoji replies, those meaning circuits keep firing but find nothing to chew on, like an engine revving in neutral. Result? Cognitive fatigue, existential dread, and the infamous hermit crash when they vanish for a purpose binge. Reading Viktor Frankl at 2 a.m., journaling life missions, sketching non-profit blueprints. Handled wisely, depth hunger becomes rocket fuel for innovation and social change. Mishandled, it mutates into chronic dissatisfaction. No conversation deep enough, no project pure enough. The secret is rhythm, diving, surfacing, diving again. But what happens when even dreams refuse to stay on the surface? Buckle up! Nightfall inside an INFJ mind is its own IMAX premiere. Lights out? Hardly. When an INFJ closes their eyes, the theatre opens. Full surround sound, 8K resolution, 0 tickets required. Brain imaging studies by sleep scientist Dr. Rosalind Cartwright reveal that people high in intuitive thinking show stronger REM phase activity in the visual association cortex. Translation: dream screens run crystal clear, and the plot writes itself in real time. While most sleepers catch highlight reels of the day, the INFJ stitches symbolism, memory, and future what-ifs into sprawling epics, half prophecy, half poem. Why does it matter? Because those nocturnal films bleed into daylight strategy. An INFJ may wake with a gut answer to yesterday's problem, not knowing the solution floated past on a moonlit river at 3 a.m. Creative researchers call it offline processing, but the INFJ just calls it Tuesday. The flip side? Vivid dreams can blur boundaries, nightmares linger like morning fog, and pre-sleep doom-scrolling supplies brutal source material. Veteran INFJs learn to program their theatre, caffeine curfew, meditation trailers, a gratitude playlist before the opening credits. Some keep dream journals, turning midnight lore into novels, paintings, or TikTok therapy sessions. Next time you shrug off a dream, ask, did my brain just whisper a pattern I've missed? Think of an INFJ at a crowded networking mixer as a multilingual spy. They watch the room, decipher each microtribe's dialect, then slip on the accent that keeps conversations smooth. Psychologists call this masking, a strategic overlay of practiced smiles, pre-tested anecdotes, and just right laughter. Research from Dr. Devon Price shows that neurodivergent masking activates the brain's dorsal anterior cingulate, the region tied to error monitoring, meaning every sentence the INFJ utters is silently scanned for fit. No wonder it feels like running antivirus in the background while streaming 4K. There are perks: masks, grease social gears, land promotions, diffuse awkward silences. But the invoice arrives later. After 2 hours of code switching, adrenaline tapers off. The gatekeeper thalamus reopens, and everything floods in. Fluorescent buzz, clinking ice, that colleague's low-grade frustration. Cue the Irish exit pajama cocoon, and a question whispered to the ceiling. Did anyone see the real me tonight? Healthy INFJs learn selective transparency, dropping the mask with trusted allies, setting time-boxed outings, and naming fatigue before it spirals. Because hiding is useful camouflage, not permanent armor. And when their forecast intuition switches on, the urge to mask collides with seeing storms before clouds. Ready to time travel? Imagine hiking a cliff path wrapped in fog, yet sensing a rogue wave will slam the rocks in exactly 6 minutes. That's an INFJ forecasting daily life. Neuroscientists studying predictive coding note these brains stitch microsignals, tone shifts, traffic rhythms, stock ticker blips into probability maps with startling speed. The result lands like déjà vu in advance. Something's coming, brace yourself. Friends call it spidey sense. Scientists call it heightened anterior insular activity, the brain's weather radar for uncertainty. But radar has a price tag. Seeing looming layoffs, relationship cracks, or political aftershocks before anyone else can breed restless nights and what-if spirals. Many INFJs describe living 10 chess moves ahead while their body is stuck on the current square. They journal timelines, create contingency budgets, even rehearse goodbye speeches long before outcomes crystallize. When forecasts prove true, relief mingles with the lonely knowledge that warning bells often sound only in their own head. The antidote isn't killing intuition, it's grounding it. Breathwork, nature walks, conversations that pull focus back to now. Still, that sixth sense blurs boundaries between thought and feeling, idea and image. A crossover explored in our next stop: emotional synesthesia. For an INFJ, emotions rarely arrive as tidy labels: happy, sad, angry. Instead, feelings hit like mixed media art. Joy tastes lime-bright and effervescent. Betrayal hums in the left ear like a bass note. Psychologists studying synesthesia find that about 4% of the population link senses this way, but anecdotal surveys hint INFJs clock in much higher. Their limbic system essentially plugs feelings into the whole sensory grid, lighting up not just the amygdala, emotion center, but also visual and auditory cortices. Consider Maya, an INFJ graphic designer who chooses client palettes by mood. If their mission feels hopeful, she says, I literally see turquoise when they speak. Another INFJ, Lucas, feels grief as a weighted vest, 20 invisible pounds pressing his sternum. These crosswires amplify empathy and creativity yet complicate daily life. Imagine trying to finish a spreadsheet while your co-worker's stress pulses crimson at the edge of your vision. Managing the cascade starts with naming it. Veteran INFJs keep color keys or sensation logs to decode which hues mean what. Some practice grounding rituals, pressing feet to cool tile, focusing on one neutral texture to mute sensory overlap. Harnessed, emotional synesthesia turns abstract vibes into tangible signals. Ignored, it can swamp every channel at once. So after 9 deep dives through circuitry, storms, and synesthetic color wheels, one question hovers. How does an INFJ make all this feel less like overload and more like rocket fuel? Step 1 is energy budgeting. Psychologists studying sensory processing sensitivity suggest a 1-to-3 ratio. For every hour in high-stimulus zones, schedule 3 in low-stimulus recovery. That could mean a noise-cancelled train ride, a sunset walk, or 10 silent minutes in a parked car before the next meeting. Step 2, creative transmutation. Neuroimaging on prolific artists shows that emotion-rich brains offload excess data by turning it into something tangible. Songs, essays, miniature herb gardens. When the hyper-empathy circuit floods, channel it outward. Let feelings become brushstrokes, code, or community outreach. Third comes radical boundary clarity. INFJs often wait for burnout before they draw lines. Flip the script, post social office hours, mute notifications on weekends, and rehearse, That doesn't work for me in front of a mirror until it feels natural. Finally, allyship. Divergence thrives in ecosystems, not isolation. Seek people who celebrate depth, trade sensory hacks, and remind you that reading 13 radio stations at once is a gift, not a glitch. Because when INFJs learn to steer their wavelengths, they don't just survive, they broadcast hope the rest of us tune into.